You know the story of the Salem witch trials. Outbreak of mass hysteria. Happened a long time ago. Back when America was merely just a commonwealth. The great state of Massachusetts. It was a different time back then. Puritans had come over from England to settle a new land so that they could practice their Christian religion. And many other people would come over just because they wanted some new place to live, wanted a new area to thrive in. And once one of them had brought over a slave from Barbados. Her name was Tituba. The young girls loved Tituba. She told them all about different stories way back when, and she showed them some of her voodoo practices. One evening, while the little girls were playing around and dancing, one of them, a man, Goody Proctor, showed up, and he discovered that they were playing around, dancing, and engaging in strange behavior while Tituba was singing some sort of peculiar song in her natural language from the West Indies. This greatly upset Goody put them. Later on, the girls, Abigail Williams, and some others began exhibiting strange symptoms. They broke out into convulsions and started twisting their bodies around, breaking out into spasms and fever. And because back then medicine and science were so primitive, they believed everything was a cause of witchcraft. So, now, this was in 1692. It's a very, very different time from way back when. Puritans were a scared, tough, survivalist, suspicious, and often frantic lot. They believed very strongly in the devil. Many things that could not be explained were blamed on witchcraft. The forest itself seemed to be evil, and anyone who acted suspiciously or strangely or didn't go to church was suspect. So, unable to explain the girl's behavior, and for fear that they would be accused of practicing witchcraft, they claimed that Tituba was trying to cast a spell on them. And they also started blaming other people as well. And so, because of this, Goody Putnam and other locals brought them to trial. Tituba confessed immediately, and other women, such as Elizabeth Proctor and others, were brought in to trial. One was an old woman who looked haggard and was poor and destitute and didn't have many friends. And she also didn't go to church. And she was accused of witchcraft. They also accused another woman who also didn't go to church. And since they would not confess to something as outrageous as witchcraft, they were put into prison. And later on, because the children, Abigail Williams in particular, kept exhibiting strange symptoms, the witchcraft hysteria spread. Soon, they went after all kinds of people in the Salem town. Another women were accused. Sarah Osborne was accused of witchcraft, and she was later hanged. And Rebecca Nurse and Rachel Clinton in nearby Ipswich were accused of witchcraft, and they were later hanged. And because the children didn't want to face the blame of partaking in unusual games, they accused other women, and so on and so on. And many times, these women were tortured and beaten into a confession. Oftentimes, the women would die in prison. One man was crushed to death by having heavy stones placed on his chest because he refused to confess to what had happened. This mass hysteria resulted in the deaths of over 20 innocent people who were hanged at Gallows Hill. This was all the result of mass hysteria and theocratic beliefs. Oftentimes, women were also accused of witchcraft because somebody would benefit from their departure, or simply because they wanted a divorce and didn't like their wife anymore, so they accused them of witchcraft. Often, there are also instances of spectral evidence someone would claim to see their spirit in the courtroom. And they would say that something hideous and wretched was going to fall upon them, and that they would be cursed, and they could see the evil spirit attempting to destroy them in the court. And the local magistrates believed this because all they had to rely on was their Christian faith. And if somebody came out and opposed this sort of thing, or tried to object to this kind of outrageous moral judgment, they could be accused of witchcraft as well.
Hi, I'm Jared Neiman, and I'm asking a favor of you.
This was a very, very dark time in America's history. And unfortunately, mass hysteria and wild accusations has not faded away. It happened with communism. It happened with terrorism. Now, it's slowly happening again. We have religious zealots who want to bring back the old days. Just like now in Alabama, a law was passed so that women could not practice the art of abortion. Now, if someone is raped by their father or some deranged hillbilly, they're forced to carry the baby. And the same thing is being talked about in Alabama and Missouri and other states. And why? Why, do you ask? Because men want to control women. Men want to exercise their power and their control over women because they're terrified of strong, liberated women making their pitiful, weak egos feel emasculated. It's all a big power struggle to control women. And Judge Clarence Thomas is considering trying to throw some sort of act to let states establish their own religion. Let states be able to have a theocratic government. It's all about controlling women. They claim that it's for the rights of the unborn, but they don't care about children. Alabama ranks 50th in education. If they really cared about children, they would not be at the bottom of the barrel. Republicans were the modern day puritanical deviants, cut funding to education and welfare any chance they get. And they don't care about the children. They don't care about what happens to children. Why do you suppose most of the social workers are women? Why do you suppose social workers get paid so little? The Republicans want to establish a theocracy. And these so-called Christians who support Trump, they don't care. They just want to control everything. They want to control you. All they really care about is having their own way. Puritan women were docile. They were supposed to just stand there and not speak out. While the men went out and did their thing, they had to stay at home. That's what they want to do now. They want women to stay at home, baking cookies, sewing clothes, letting men do whatever they want. And they're going to make it a felony for a woman to have an abortion or a miscarriage. See, mankind doesn't learn. Man's nature doesn't change. Oh, technology and everything else may advance, but man is still the primitive degenerate that used to bash animals in the head for sport way back in the day. Man's nature doesn't change. And if we don't fight against this, if we don't fight against this fundamentalist fascism, things will go back to the way they were. Back to the days when people could throw out accusations of witchcraft or other issues and throw them at people they don't want and they don't like. They go back to that fascist, terrifying era of 1692 in Salem, Massachusetts. So you must let your voice be heard. You must speak out. You must say something. You must fight against all of this, because we all know where it's headed.
Real estate can feel a lot
Daniel Hawthorne predicted all of this and tried to warn us, and we must heed his warning and prevent this sort of evil from occurring again. Otherwise, all of those poor innocent souls during the Salem witch trials will have died for nothing. Don't let this happen again, ladies and gentlemen. Don't let this happen again.